Thanks for joining us on OG Sports Rap, that one place in cyberspace and on radio where you can drop yourself into the barbershop, get yourself a cold one, get yourself a trim, and leave yourself knowing a lot more than when you first came up in here. And it has been an interesting tournament. Once again, we're seeing that in this land of intercollegiate athletics, let us forget about the days of Cinderella. Okay, that's just how it is. And it's going to be that way because somehow we've gotten to the point where Cinderella is no more relevant in the tournament than I don't know, your average commercial coming on. I mean, this is a power conference tournament now, and they get the most bids. So consequently, they're going to be the most dominant. And the Big Ten has been the one that has been dominating this tournament with 6 teams in the Sweet 16. So apparently, as somebody on the opposite side of this microphone or screen was telling you all season long, I thought from top to bottom that the Big Ten was the best conference in America. And when you've got 6 teams in the Sweet 16, now, of course, you had double bids in every conference. So, I mean, before we start patting the Big Ten +8 on, you know, the back for dominating, but think about it. 3 number 1 seeds. This is the first time in a long time. This has been a pretty chalk tournament, but we had enough great finishes to offset the power conference dominance. 3 number 1 seeds. You're talking about Michigan, who's advanced, and somewhere around the middle of January, I was all on Axel Londenborg, and he hadn't just disappointed at all. Dusty May has his team uh, playing really well right now in the conference. I was very impressed also with St. John's. St. John's and Rick Pitino. Rick Pitino has found something with this team. The kid Edgefor in the paint is a beast. They're playing tough Johnny defense from back in the day. They playing Rick Pitino defense from back in the day, and somehow and his is the only coaching staff that you see right now that are dressed like corporate executives. Does anybody see how that Patino walk onto the floor was with his $400-500 suit on and his boys around him like the syndicate protectors, a conciliary or two. I mean, it was it is an interesting dynamic to watch how St. John's is going to come back to the East Coast with a chance to play in a big East market like DC, and it should be unbelievable basketball in the nation's capital this weekend. We're efforting to be a part of whatever information because the NCAA is really, really, really about protecting its media partners. So we will do our best to get as much as we can exclusively. If not, we'll rely on those from the wire services and stuff like that to continue to do their thing. But it is a fascinating dynamic. I mean, if I look at my bracket right now, I think I have 14 of the 16 teams, and I do have a UConn and Arkansas final. So it'll be interesting to see um, if Danny Hurley can keep his composure, like some of the other blue blood coaches with great pedigrees have not been able to do. And again, after we left the air on Friday, and I really didn't have a chance to open the can on this, but when you are a legacy coach, and what do I mean by legacy coach? Your dad or your mom had a famous last name in this game on the bench. You, by observing that guy or lady, should have been able to find a benchmark for how you're going to comport yourself, act like you've been there before. And I wanted to open up the can, and in the interest of full disclosure, I'm a professor at the University of Maryland. So when I see Kevin Willard, the ex head men's basketball coach, at the University of Maryland who left on, let's just say he burned a few bridges on the way out. All right. Apparently, he and the previous athletic director did not get along. There were some things that he wanted to do. One of them involved a Christmas dinner after playing in like a holiday tournament up there. And Damon Evans, who's now the athletic director at SMU, is a guy that, um, well, let's just say he did things that were a little different, cost cutting measures, which didn't go over well. Newsflash: don't just arbitrarily have evening games and tell people, look, we're not going to feed you anymore. It's on you. You can bring your own stuff into the ballpark. That was the kind of way that Evans was rolling. Well, somewhere or another, he and Kevin Willard ended up having beef as Evans was on his way to SMU, and then Willard takes the job at Villanova. And then he had the most embarrassing spectacle that I've seen in quite some time with his halftime interview. Okay, well, it wasn't a halftime interview. It was one of those between quarter things that they kind of record real fast. They give 60 seconds, ask one question, and get up out of there. And who doesn't love Lauren Shahadi? Shahadi, yeah, she is a hottie, but that's a topic for another show. But Shahadi does a great job on the sidelines, mixing journalistic integrity with humor. And when you can do those things, you end up becoming a star. So she asked Willard about, what's going wrong with his team. And he proceeds to respond that he's going to fire his old staff. Okay, Kevin, this is the difference. You're a legacy guy. Your father, Ralph Willard, was a great college coach. I'm speaking directly to you, Kevin, because this is unacceptable behavior. He gave you a last name that is a brand in the annals of college basketball circles. Your father was a great guy. He was a tremendous coach, and he always comported himself with class. So let me step off you and look you as best I can in the face as a fellow member of Gen X, as somebody else who, as a and you coaching, so you're a professional educator. You set the tone for your team. You set the example for the way that you want your student athletes to comport themselves as adults, as upstanding human beings, and as athletes. You don't disrespect the people on your team. And I don't know if Willard had enough class to address his coaches and say that, but when something like that goes viral and you're on that stage, right, it never goes away. Let me repeat myself. That piece of video and your name as one of the assistant coaches on that team damages the credibility of the guys on your staff. And I'm just wondering right now, all right, how Kevin Willard's coaches at Villanova feel about him right now. Because there have been two names in that place that have won national championships. One was Rolly Massimino. Rolly would get after officials, but he never threw his assistant coaches under the bus. You just don't do that. Okay. That was a bad look. And he knows better than that too. And then he's going to double down and see, here we go once again. Legacy coach doubling down in the post-game press conference, not knowing how to act. These petulant children, the Hubert Davis types. One night after Hubert Davis embarrasses himself and the North Carolina basketball program following their hard loss, Kevin Willard goes out and in the midst of a game throws his entire staff under the bus. Never a good look to tell all of America that you're going to fire your entire staff in the midst of a game on national TV. There's no privilege with that, Kevin. None. You made yourself look bad. You made your school look bad, and you tarnished a great last name that your father left you with by being a jackass. Simply put, that's what it was, man. One of the shining moments, if you want to call it that, of the first couple of days of the tournament is you looking into the camera and telling the American public you're going to fire your coaching staff. And then when given an opportunity to retract it, you just go, well, this is my life. I mean, wow. What next, bro? You're gonna just pick up the basketball and run the next time the fouls don't go your way? I mean, you're gonna call challenges for every call now. I mean, nothing good comes of that. There should have been a formal reprimand. Quite frankly, I think Villanova should have gotten fined for it. At least he did. And again, you where's Charlie Baker? Where's the NCAA? That's a bad freaking look. Okay. It's nothing good comes from because you're always saying, our athletes are going to go pro in something other than sports. Well, you've got professional coaches acting like dopes while trying to groom these young people uh, to become professionals in something other than sports. And sports is supposed to teach you about teamwork. It's supposed to teach you about camaraderie. It's supposed to teach you about bearing down. You're not supposed to expose the warts of your program, and it made for great TV. If I'm Shahadi, that could be Emmy worthy type of interview. All right, I'll give it. And she stood right in there and took it, and it made her look bad because he wanted to be a upset dope. And we all have lines of professionalism in our work that aren't blurred and you can't cross. And Kevin Willard kind of crossed that line. And so too did Hubert Davis. And the fact that, Hubert was run like day one really doesn't matter because he performed so ridiculous after the game. That was the defining moment of a heartbreaking loss. I mean, you got to really be a selfish SOB if in a heated moment like that, where everybody is emotional and you can't keep yours in check. And I think that was a bad look for Villanova. And when you have a standard that was set by Rolly Massimino and the great Jay Wright, you can't go out like that. So I'm anxious to hear what the Philadelphia Jesuits at that fine institution are going to do to reprimand him. Because if they don't reprimand him now, this is going to be the kind of defining behavior that is going to follow Kevin Willard. And when it follows your coach, it's tethered to your school. Okay. And Villanova is much better than that. And there are a lot of people saying, "Oh, the Philly this and he don't know it." No. His dad made his mark coaching at the University of Pittsburgh, y'all. So Kevin Willard is not new to this. He should not be given a pass on it. I like to see the rest of the fossils in his community come out because you cannot throw players and coaches under the bus publicly. Now, if you want to dress them down in the locker room after the game, that's your choice. But what happens on TV should stay on TV. And you shouldn't be acting a fool like that if you're making $5 million a year to have one of the coolest jobs on the planet. It makes absolutely no sense to me. And we'll talk about that kind of behavior a little bit later on when my coaching analysis experts will join us as we break down the fun that is called March Madness. It is your boy, Professor G. Mark Gray. It's OG Sports Rap on Sports Rap Network and Substack. Remember, download the mobile app, sportsrapnetwork.com, and download it by telling 500,000 of your close personal friends to join us because we all we got.